Hey guys, it's Cameron here with Emerson House Buyers. Every week I bring you tools, tactics, strategies, lessons I've learned, things that have helped me build up a sizable rental portfolio in about 2 years and now manage that portfolio. Today I'm taking a question from, nobody. This is a question I received multiple times regarding the TREC contract. So guys, I have an old video telling you, you can check that out up here, telling you that we use the TREC contract, but I've had a lot of people say, well, I want to see how to actually fill it out. So I'll send you an example. Just shoot me an email to info@emersonhousebuyers.com and I will send you an example of a completed contract that we've done. And then I'm also going to go through this now, and I'm going to walk through everything. I'm not an attorney. I don't know all the ins and outs of this. I might not say everything 1,000% correct, but I will be able to tell you what we have done and what we've done many times. So you can also go to the TREC website and download for free the this standard contract. So this is going to be, it's a 1 to 4 family residential contract resale. This is the Texas Real Estate Commission contract. This is free for anybody who wants to download it. I'll put the link somewhere either on here or down below so you guys can get that. Anybody who's wholesaling in Texas can use this form, and let's just get started. So number 1, parties. The parties to this contract are blank the seller and blank the buyer. So put in your information on there, whoever the seller is. You can look typically on the tax records to find out who the seller is. If there is an issue or something comes up with title, they'll correct that. So don't worry about that. If that needs to be amended for some reason, maybe they have an error or something, or an error like an error or an error, ERROR, they'll correct that at title. So don't get too caught up with that. Buyer, you, the LLC, or whoever the buyer is. Some people put and/or assigns. I don't. I've never had any issues putting my name on there and then assigning the contract. If you guys want to know the assignment agreement that we use, you can check that out up here, and I'll send that to you. But yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I don't really care assigns or not. Somebody might be particular, and if your area and your title company says put and/or assigns, then put and/or assigns. Number 2, the property. This is all from the county website. So you have HCAD, Fort Bend CAD, Galveston CAD, and that's the county appraisal district. They'll give you all that, lot, land, block. You just copy that right out of the appraiser website. Improvements, basically that's just saying stuff that's not permanently installed is not included in this contract, so you're going to need to put that in the special provisions or make sure that's noted. Accessories, blah blah blah, exclusions. Yeah, so just basically making sure that whatever you guys have agreed between the seller, put it in writing. Don't just say, they'll say, oh yeah, we'll leave you that great surround sound system. Make sure that it's in writing. Number 3, sales price. So the cash portion of the sales price payable at closing, so 3A is blank, and then you have B, a party financing addendum or a loan assumption addendum, any sort of financing. So typically if you're going to get a loan, like traditionally, you would check the third-party financing addendum. Check out the other video I have on these 2 strategies, the seller financing addendum and the loan assumption addendum, and then C, you have the final sales price, so the sum of A and B. You can do it either way, but if you're paying cash with a private money lender, or if you're paying cash or have a private money lender, I'll typically fill out A and C. I've got to the point where I'm just putting it in C. They don't really care, as long as they're getting their timeline met. Sometimes I've had traditional banks who I've worked with so much that I just tell them, hey, here we go, 10 or 15 days, 20 days, we can close in that time. So I don't want to pigeonhole myself by putting a cash portion and a loan assumption or a loan portion on B, and not having to go back and rewrite the contract. So my tip would be, or what we do, is we just put C, we just put the total amount. So we can we have a private money lender fall through and we got to go traditional financing, we can always have that flexibility there. License holder disclosure. Yeah, a real estate license holder is a party to the transaction. Disclose that. Earnest money. So I have another video on earnest money if you guys want to check that out. But we always just use a flat amount. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, like I said, that video will tell you everything you need to know. But we use $1,000, and then you have the escrow agent information on there, which is your title company, their address, and basically how many days you need to deliver that. Sometimes we do 1 day, 2 days, 10 days. It really depends on what you guys are feeling. So typically it will be done pretty quickly. And as you see on the bottom of that, it says time is of the essence for this paragraph, meaning it needs to be done ASAP. Again, check out that earnest money video, but we'll take pictures of it and send it in and then mail it. Title policy and survey. Who's going to pay for the title policy? Is that going to be a buyer expense or a seller expense? Typically, if you're buying for wholesale, it's going to be a buyer's expense. And then again, the title company, who that is going to be providing the title policy. Something to note, so at the bottom of all these, the buyer needs to initial and the seller. So you as the buyer need to initial, and whoever, if it's just one seller, just one. If it's two sellers, they both need to initial at the bottom. Turn it into page 2. At the top of all the subsequent pages, the address of the property needs to be put in there. So that can be a real pain if you're filling this out by hand. I used to fill these out by hand. Now you get some zip forms or DocuSign or .loop or whatever to fill these out. But those are, make sure you fill those out. You don't want to get a contract kickback for something like that. Let's see here. What else? So page 2, title policy. I believe we always said, I'm looking at one of our contracts here on the other page. Survey, so commitment. The standard printed exception as to discrepancy, conflict, shortages in the area or boundary lines, encroachment or overlapping will not be amended or deleted from the policy, will be amended. So if they lied or something comes up inaccurate, who's going to pay for it? I would say the seller's going to pay for it, because that's, if they told you something that wasn't right, but that's going to be kind of on a case-by-case basis. Survey. This is one that gets interesting. So this contract, or this piece of the survey part. So let's see, you have one, within so many days of the effective date of this contract, the seller self-furnished to the title company existing survey. We always just did 30 days after this contract. If the survey after it is not acceptable. Sometimes these people have been in their house for years, right? So it's not, this one isn't really hard and fast, especially since if there's any issues in it, it's going to be resolved in the previous paragraph. So we always just did number 2. We would check 2 within 30 days after the date of this contract. Buyer shall obtain a new survey at buyer's expense. So again, we pay all the closing costs. If you can't afford it, then don't do the deal. Commitment or activity. Don't ask me why, but we always put residential activity on paragraph D, still under this page. Objections, or prohibit the following use. Commitment of other items. Yeah. Yeah, we just put residential activity. Let's see, title notices, and I don't know why. That was probably under the guidance of my mentor or an attorney. Page 3, there's nothing, I'm not going to read everything, so some of these you can't actually fill out anything on because they're just standard verbiage, and it's basically talking about what happens, the statutory tax districts, tidewaters, all that's just standard language. If they ask you to go through that, tell them to go talk to an attorney. This is a standard contract. So typically I will put anything we enter in blue or highlight it somehow so they know that this is something that was changed outside the standard contract. So on to page 4. Again, don't forget to put your property address and at the top, or the seller's property address at the top, and initial for the buyer and seller at the bottom. Property condition. So this is something that has come up a couple times and has bit some people in the rear end. So if you select under paragraph B, if you select number 2, buyer has not received notice within blank days after the effective date of this contract, seller shall deliver the notice to the buyer. Buyer has not received notice within blank days after the effective date of this contract, seller shall deliver the notice to the buyer. If buyer does not receive the notice, buyer may terminate this contract at any time prior to closing, and the earnest money will be refunded. So this is saying that they need to provide the seller's disclosure, right? I have been in properties where I never got a seller's disclosure. Some sneaky investors will check that the buyer has not received notice and that they need to provide that within 5, 7, 10 days, and then back out at the last minute, highlight this paragraph, and then get their earnest money and everything back. To me, that's a pretty shitty way to do business. So you need to select number 3. If you do intend to get sometimes they say, hey, yeah, we'll fill out a seller's disclosure, no problem. Then select number 2 and make sure you get it. But, number 3, don't be shady. Don't do shady stuff. It gives the rest of us a bad name. So be clear on what your intentions are on that side. Acceptance of the property as is. So D, we select number 1, we accept the property as is. Again, just standard legal speak. Let me see what, just making sure we're on the same one here. Buyer closing the resident contract amount. See, if the buyer purchases resident. We don't mess with letter H. We don't even put anything in there. Because it's optional. Broker fees are contained in separate agreements. We don't mess with that. 9, closing. So this is a very important page. Closing on or before. Notice it says on or before. So when you put, this video is going to be released at the end of June. You put July 1st on here. That means we could close June 30th, June 29th, 28th, 27th. We could close on July 1st. But the latest you can close is July 1st. So on or before. Doesn't mean you have to close that exact day. I always put 30 days. I tell them, hey, if something comes up with title, we don't want to have to redo the contract. So let's put 30 days out and we'll close as soon as we can. And we've closed in, less than a week, and we've closed 30, 45 days because we had title issues. So leave yourself some flexibility there, or just understand, if you're going to tell them, let's give ourselves a week just so we don't have to redo it. That's what we do. Possession. Upon closing and funding. So you basically get it upon closing and funding. You're not going to do it unless you're doing a residential lease. Special provisions. So I want to read our special provisions here, and I do have another video on special provisions, so check that out, but I will read this. This is what we put in our special provisions contract. Buyer will pay all closing costs. Buyer will not pay taxes, past due taxes or liens, or any other curative title issues. Seller must provide a free and clear title. Seller acknowledges that buyer has equitable interest in the property and can convey said interest according to Texas law. Seller must provide access before closing. So what is that saying? That's a fancy way of saying we're going to pay all the closing costs. If we have equitable interest in the property, meaning we can wholesale it. That is our equitable interest. As soon as we sign this contract, we have equitable interest in the property. And then the last piece, seller must provide access before closing. We've had issues where we can't get back into the property. I've actually had to a deal fell through because one of the sellers did not allow us access to closing, and we went into closing. I walked over the house and it was destroyed. copper wiring was stripped out, everything. So make sure if you go a long time without seeing the property, say you do the walkthrough, you make an offer, and then they contact you 4, 5, 6 months later and then want to close, go through and walk the property again, and that just lets them know that you can get access to that. Settlement and other expenses, there's nothing we put in there. Again, all this mediation, attorney fees, escrow, all this is standard. Representations, notices. So the notices piece is basically who the buyer is and who the seller is and their contact information. There's nothing out of the ordinary there. That's pretty straightforward. Again, you go to the agreement of parties. Do you have any other addendums? Again, these are all, I can't say every single one of these, but TREC provides a lot of these addenda. So make sure if you're including one of those, they're checked on here so everything matches up. This is very important as well. Termination option. So number 23. So I've got another video on option fees. That's come up several times. So we always put $100. Sometimes people want to more or less whatever. We were writing a lot of offers, so we put in the blank there beside option fee in the second line. We put $100, and we say within 10 days, 10, 15, whatever days. If it's a real bad job, we'll put 15, but we typically just say within 10 days. And then the last piece, the option fee, will be credited towards the sales price at closing. So select the will. So I'm not going to go over really what the option fee is because I've covered that, like I said in the other video, but I will say it gives you the out to completely be out of the contract within whatever time frame you put on the fourth line. So we put 10 or 15 days. So you're allowed, you could just say it was raining today and that's why I went out of the contract. The only money you lose, you don't lose any of your earnest money, the only money that you lose is the option fee. That's why we put $100. And that's why at all those seminars and stuff, they tell you, oh my gosh, you can buy hundreds of thousands of dollars of houses or millions of dollars of houses and only risk very little. Well, that's your option fee. So I've seen people put $1. I don't know if you can put 0, but just make sure you say it will be credited towards the sales price at closing. So you're not just giving that to them willy-nilly. That actually will be applied to you're paying $100,000, then you only have to bring $99,900 if you put a $100 option fee. Consult an attorney before signing. Number 24, TREC rules prohibit real estate license holders from giving legal advice. Absolutely. So we never have attorneys, so that's missed. Once you have everybody sign here on the bottom of this page, on the bottom of page 8, make sure you fill in executed blank day of whatever. So what is the date? So once the seller signs or the last person signs, you put that effective date. This is for inspections, for the option fee. Make sure you fill that date out. If you don't fill it out, sometimes we leave them off of contracts, but then as soon as the title company got it, they would fill it in. So sometimes that's not kosher. Just put it on there so everybody knows and everybody's clear on it. We didn't really worry too much about filling them out in the beginning because we were closing on them so fast, and we were buying them at such good deals. So make sure you do that, though. Trust me, it'll prevent headaches in the future. And then the last 2 pages here, broker information. If you're doing this wholesale deal, there shouldn't be any broker information. And then the very last one, if you want to, page 10, that you're going to have an option fee receipt, earnest money receipt on here. So if you're sitting down with them, cutting them the checks, you can fill this out and have them sign it. Typically, you're going to be sending that to the title company anyways, so they'll fill this out. But the option fee does go to the seller, so they'll confirm that. And obviously, if they cash the check, then you know they got it. That is pretty much it, guys. That's page 10. So that's all of it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you fill out a TREC contract. Note: this is not for use. Highlight: not for use in condominiums. I know I flew through that pretty quickly, but that, guys, is the basis of this. This is going to be version 2-12-18. So I think that's February 12th, 2018. If you guys have any other questions about this, let me know. Shoot me an email or respond to this or comment below. And I will either answer it quickly if I can. If not, I'll get to it when I can. Maybe put up another video so everybody else has it, because most of the time people have the exact same questions. That's why I had to do this one, because we got this question time and time again. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying. Thanks.